The Torah is, first and foremost, Torah means actually a teaching, a direction. Yoreh, for example, from which Torah comes, is a direction, an instruction, a guide, things of that nature. And it's unfortunate that in so many places it's translated by nomos in the Septuagint, because that's a very restrictive way of using the word Torah. Nomos really means law, and even then, even law in the sense of a pattern, nomos really has more of association of a structured pattern, which is very, I would say, almost definitive, you see. Whereas Torah can mean the 5 books of Moses, or it can mean the entire Bible. So if someone says, I'm studying Torah, he's not really necessarily referring to the 5 books of Moses. He's saying, I'm studying, or it can mean the entire Jewish tradition. Because the entire Jewish tradition is an instruction. It's a way in which we try to understand what is ultimately of value in terms of how do we live our life, how do we understand the world, how do we understand the values, and the basic stories and teachings in the Torah are a way of basically opening our eyes to things that we normally either don't, or aren't aware of, or even don't want to be aware of. I think that it's an instruction, Torah is an instruction that if you read it carefully, will enable you to transcend the ordinary way in which you look at the world. I mean, I can give you some examples just to illustrate what I mean. When you have in the 29th chapter of Deuteronomy, it's the day that Moses dies, and he says to the people, children of Israel, only today do you have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a mind to understand what happened to you in all these years. What does that mean? Weren't they there at the Exodus? Weren't they there at the giving of the Torah? Weren't they there? What does that mean? I mean, there's certain subtleties in these texts which, if you don't really look at these subtleties, you don't understand what you're reading. And there are expressions that are marvelous expressions, which normally would not be the kind of language we would use. And so what happens is that it forces us to redirect the way we experience and the way we cognize. And it's for this reason that you can't talk about Torah without talking about commentary. In other words, if you were to open up a rabbinic Bible, it isn't just the Torah. You have all around it, you have 32 different commentaries. You've got commentaries in the back. You have commentaries on commentaries. And one of the things that I found always really very beautiful is that the different commentators talk to one another over centuries. So we might, for example, usually, when you read the Torah on a Saturday morning, sometimes in Shabbat, or even sometimes we do, unfortunately we should do it more often, but we do have a Friday evening, ceremony, But if you were to take a text and then read the text, and you see that it's not a simple text. By the way, the Torah is not simple, okay? It shouldn't be for children. I mean, we sort of think of it as children's stories. That's not true. And then you say, okay, now this is what Rashi says. Wow, not bad. But why is it that what Rashi says is different from what Kimchi says or Sforno says? And so you've got all these different commentators who are talking to one another over centuries in terms of their interpretation. You have, for example, a continuing disagreement between Maimonides and Nachmanides. And so I think this is a very helpful way because it forces you, in studying Torah, to actually say, well, what sense does it make to me? Which one should I accept? And how does it really affect the way I live my life? So Torah, it seems to me, is a dynamic reality. It's not a static reality. It's not something that you pick it up and you read it and you say, okay, this is what it says. No. Like I was saying to you today that I was struggling with Isaiah 52, 53. The text itself is complicated. And as we were discussing, during in the early rabbinic period, the book of Job was read in Aramaic because the Hebrew was just too difficult. It's a difficult text, and the Torah is not simple. I mean, you could read it and translate it, but it's one thing because it's a very complicated text. And the fact that you've got so many commentaries is a way in which it forces you to recognize you wouldn't have all these commentaries if it was just simple and you could read it and everybody would understand it. And I think that it also enables you, I think one of the things that I can say, that one of the reasons you have so many Jews who are very good lawyers is largely because this textual analysis and what does that mean? What are the implications? What if it were this? What if it was not this? What if it was something else? The addressing questions to the text is part of Torah. It's part of studying what Torah is. It's an active thing. It's not a passive thing. And it also has to be something that is approached with, here I want to conclude with this, it has to be something that's approached with great respect. I have always been somewhat reluctant to go along with all these people who want to, cut it into different, not that I'm opposed to J, P, and D in general, but, this idea that somehow you have to approach it with a certain amount of reverence, a certain amount of humility, a certain amount of recognition that you really don't know enough to understand it fully, a recognition that it's more than just a human text. I mean, all these factors are things that have to be seen as part of this study. And this is one of the reasons, for example, it's done in a synagogue, so that it's part of a service, it's part of worship, it's part of a feeling that one is in the presence of God. One opens up the Torah, one reads it, one interprets it, one comments on it, one tries to embody it and live it. I mean,